Hello, welcome to Reporters on France 24. Now, in this programme, the threat to life and security in Ivory Coast. Tribesmen there have witnessed firsthand the dangers posed by jihadist militants. Armed groups from Burkina Faso have been present in the region for several years. In just 2 years, 5 unclaimed attacks have been carried out, the largest of them in June 2020. That was an attack on an army post that left 14 dead. Well, since then, locals have been facing an ever more complicated daily life. Samuel Bernard is our reporter. We'll watch his report in just a moment. He's here with us. First, thanks for being with us, Samuel.
Hello.
Was it hard to access this region?
After the attack in June 2020, it was impossible to get to this area without the agreement and the logistical support of the Ivorian army. In fact, we had to wait more than a year and a half. In January 2022, Ivory Coast put in place a security corridor that was also meant to show that the territory was under the control of the Ivorian army. And that was when we were able to go there and talk to local people. At the time, the Ivorian army wasn't replying to our questions. We had to wait till April 2022 to follow a patrol unit that was monitoring the strategic zone on the border with Burkina Faso.
Situé donc à la frontière avec le Burkina Faso.
Sounds like a long and somewhat complicated process. Thanks so much for making your report. We will watch it right now with our viewers. This from Samuel Bernard and Hannane Ferdjani.
At the Caen commanding post, 600 kilometers north of Abidjan, security forces gear up for a night patrol.
Attention!
Tonight, a suspicious group of people were located in the area close to the border with Burkina Faso.
Any suspicious individual that you'll apprehend should be searched according to our regular procedures. We'll conduct 2 patrols. One patrol will go to the Chami area, and the other around Tugbo.
These units were deployed to the extreme north of the country after the very first jihadist attack in the area in June 2020. Aboard their armored tanks in convoy, they make their way towards the border.
Okay, crossing for Cambao. We are working on a very sensitive perimeter here. There could be enemies who could slow us down in our course of action and who could ambush us along our route. Our lead unit noticed some suspicious movement on our route. They have come out of their vehicle and they're carrying out a search. We're going to follow them and see what's going on.
Once out of the tanks, soldiers move slowly and in close ranks. Tonight, no explosive devices in sight. But 200 meters further, the military discover a crater on the ground where militants were not able to bury an explosive.
They bury the charge and keep the source. Then they monitor how many times we pass through an area and ambush us.
Bridges like this one are a prime target for armed groups. Just 2 weeks before our arrival, this very unit suffered an attack. Soldiers were eventually able to repel the militants, recurrent incursions that the army rarely makes public.
This is a high-risk area. When there are breaches around Kafolo, from this point to this second particular point, we know that the chances of an ambush are high. So around this area, we just move with a lot of caution.
This is the first time in 2 years that the army grants international media access to one of its anti-terrorist operations. Authorities have repeatedly claimed that the north of the country is under control, an official line repeated by officers like Campbell without being very convincing.
The risk is still high, but we manage. As I've said before, we're trained for this. And, well, we try to proceed with our mission and reassure the population.
et de mettre la population en confiance.
But reinforcement is needed, and extra troops continue to arrive to join the 4,000 soldiers already in place. Even if the situation has calmed down, the region is close to the area of the Sahel threatened by terrorism. Kafolo is one place that's been particularly affected. Life in this village changed on June 11th when residents were woken up by the sound of gunfire.
It's here.
Patern remembers that night all too well.
There were bullet holes here, blood even. But I wasn't here when it happened. I work at a farm nearby. Every morning I pass through here, but I couldn't bring myself to come and see the corpses.
The corpses of 14 soldiers from Burkina Faso and Ivory Coast. What remains of their post is a large imprint in the sand. It serves as a reminder of the deadly incursion, which is thought to have been carried out as a reprisal for a military operation in the area. An incursion that shook the country to its core 4 years after the deadly Grand Bassam attack.
When the hunters went into the bush, they'd tell us that they saw strange people, so we knew that there were jihadists around, but we didn't think they would attack Kafolo.
9 months later, 2 Ivorian soldiers and a policeman were killed here, along with 3 terrorists.
We just pray that this never happens to us again. 2 times is too much already.
Patern takes us to what was once the most popular tourist resort of the region. But today, there are no visitors in sight. Before Kafolo first came under attack, Patern headed a local theater troupe that would perform for the hotel's clients.
It's all closed down. But back then, they would open the door, and we would set up here. The public would be there. It was good. It's not like that anymore. The housekeepers are gone. The guides are gone. There is not a single car. Everything is gone. People don't even work anymore. Before, people used to work here. At the end of the month, everyone would make a little money, but now there's nothing.
The only people left are the 2 employees who take care of the gardens and feed a couple of chimpanzees.
It's sad, no?
It's very sad. That's why I say the jihadists have kind of won. They've managed to change life in Kafolo. We have no more resources. There's nothing left.
Despite a strong military presence in the area, fishermen and farmers don't go out as often as they used to, which has made it more difficult to access food. As well as carrying out attacks, armed groups have managed to instill fear and intimidation among local populations. In this village, located a few kilometers from the border with Ivory Coast, residents have not felt safe in almost a year. A few months ago, armed individuals flocked into the village, gathered people around the mosque, and accused them of working for the army.
We were here. We prayed here around 7:30. That's when they came to find us at the mosque, right here.
This farmer agreed to talk to us on the condition that he remains anonymous.
They came on motorbikes, and there were many of them. When they came, they gathered everyone here. They said that they are the ones that people call jihadists, the ones you hear about on TV and the radio. They said they're here to stay, and that no one should talk about them, nor what they do to security forces.
Did you know them?
We don't know them, but they said they knew all of us, because when they came, they mentioned names of people in the village. They said they knew everyone.
Since that day, life hasn't been the same. Villagers avoid going far, especially after 6 p.m.
We're scared. We don't feel safe. So a lot of us don't go to our farm. My farm is 7 kilometers from here, and I haven't been in months.
How do you make ends meet?
We barely do. We do what we can, but we don't have money.
Locals hope that they can put this difficult chapter behind them. But with fear also came mistrust towards a specific community, the Fulani, a semi-nomadic group who generally live in the bush to stay close to their cattle. In the aftermath of the Kafolo attack, security forces arrested several suspects, including a Fulani man from Burkina Faso, accused of plotting the incursion. Since then, there have been various reports of the community being closely monitored by local authorities in their fight against terrorism. Between 35,000 and 40,000 Fulanis are estimated to live in the Ivorian region of Burkina, according to military sources.
Let the cattle go. This way.
Since the region first came under attack, their life here has grown more precarious.
The Fulani people have been persecuted. They've accused us of being jihadists. But we have nothing to do with all of this.
These two shepherds were born and raised in Ivory Coast. This region has always been their home.
Things have really changed for us. Before all of this, we could gather for wedding ceremonies, for example. Fulanis from all over would come and take part in events. But this doesn't happen anymore. If you organize a wedding and have relatives from a different town coming, they might be arrested on their way here. We can't visit one another anymore. We can't drive 10 kilometers on a bike anymore. I can't even move my cattle from a water stream to another without raising suspicions and risking arrest.
Many young people were arrested and taken away for months. For instance, one of us went to cut some grass to build a roof. When the forces saw him, they arrested him.
Hello, Usman.
Bassori is the chief of the nearby village of Nation. He is a respected figure here, and he has used his authority to bring support to the Fulani community.
Mi ben sa suvetrama ni fenga o aba yere korosi la ni akoni ni mo ne amase ndo kokunda foira ala ni koko nana na amena se ka nyon demara albisa amala dari.
In the past few months, Bassori has helped release a dozen members of the Fulani community from the local police station, providing statements and vouching for the innocents. He's been pledging for peace between the different communities.
The military, when they see Fulani people on the road, they take them. Even out in the bushes, they take them. But they're humans. When they first arrived in our area, we let them in. Once they were settled, we started working together. We lived together without any problems. From a humanitarian point of view, it's serious. As a man, it should hurt to see a fellow human being being mistreated.
Bassori hopes the improvement of the security situation will help smooth relations between communities. Security forces, on their side, denied targeting any specific group in their fight against terrorism. Ivory Coast is set to recruit some additional 10,000 soldiers in the next 3 years to carry out the fight against terrorism.
Well, Samuel is still with us. We've seen in your reports that the people from the Fulani ethnic community are particularly exposed to risks. Do you see a real danger of inter-community conflict?
I
should clarify, first of all, that since June 2021, there haven't been any more attacks. As the security situation improves, tension between different communities also diminishes. Since we were there, our sources have told us that arrests have become rare, that most prisoners have been freed. Despite that, distrust persists. Not all members of the Fulani community that left their villages have come back. And I should also clarify that the distrust exists for several reasons. First, the armed groups that operate in the zone, for example the Katiba Masina, are led by members of the Fulani community.
Dirigés par donc des membres de la communauté Peul. Et puis il y a aussi
And then there's also the fact that this community has old, long-standing conflicts with other groups.
Habitant donc sur place en tant qu'éleveurs pratiquant
As herders, their way of raising livestock has often put them at odds with local farmers.
Les pratiques des agriculteurs locaux. Alors pour
the situation not to become an all-out intercommunal conflict, we have to hope for two things. First, that the security situation doesn't deteriorate, and secondly, that the locals make the choice of living together, like the village chief we saw who decided to defend the Fulani minority.
And if we zoom out to the sort of geopolitical level, what would you say is the position of the Côte d'Ivoire authorities, particularly regarding the Sahel region and terrorism there?
Oui, alors la Côte d'Ivoire se positionne en fait
Ivory Coast sees itself as a regional leader and as somewhat of a base for the armies positioned in the Sahel region. Last year, Ivory Coast inaugurated an international academy for the fight against terrorism along with the French army, which is dedicated to training and hosting armies from around the region.
Qui a pour vocation en fait de former, d'accueillir les armées de la sous-région.
The relationships between the different countries aren't all smooth, as we know. Right now, for example, there is a diplomatic crisis going on between Ivory Coast and Mali. 49 Ivorian soldiers were arrested and are being detained in Bamako. The Ivorian defense minister has expressed his concern that the fight against terrorism will be impacted by this diplomatic crisis.
Finalement, la lutte contre le terrorisme impactée par cette crise diplomatique.
Well, we will, of course, continue to follow those developments. Thank you so much, Samuel, for bringing us your report. And you can watch and share Samuel's report. It's on our website, france24.com. For now, though, thanks very much for watching, reporters.